Hey Villa fam, welcome back to another season of Honest Conversation with Two Village Girls. I'm Angie,
And I'm Serena.
and this season we'll be talking about difficult talks that are typically hard to discuss but definitely needed in the home. This week we'll be talking about abortions and miscarriages. So, to start the conversation off, everybody knows that abortions and miscarriage, well, mostly abortions are a big, hard topic to talk about. Um,
Hmm.
but we feel like it's needed, so we're gonna just jump right in by talking about like my body, my choice. So, how do we start off, Serena?
The first thing I want to say about the My Body, My Choice is that there's so much controversy on the topic because when it comes to women and women's rights, they're all based around men. And what I mean by that is like right now in the current society we live in, a lot of the arguments are based on everything outside of the woman itself
Mm-hmm.
or woman herself. Um, in terms of what men think are right, what men think the right decision is for women to choose. Like something as basic as like husbands have the right to and have to sign permission to allow their wives to get their tubes tied before having a boy and a girl and having kids. Like women aren't allowed to just say, "Hey, I want my tubes tied." They have to wait to it until a certain age, even if they decide at the age of 18, I don't like kids, I don't want kids.
Mm-hmm.
There's this rule that we just can't decide, I don't want them,
Yeah.
because we don't know better as women, and women are supposed to be like the caregivers and the birth givers and all that stuff and the maternal people. We're not allowed to until we reach like, I think, menopause. We're allowed to say we want our tubes tied.
That's
I'm
it.
not sure the exact age. That, or if our husbands tell us that, hey, it's okay for us to have our tubes tied now, so that way we don't have kids, which is insane.
Oh, yes, that's insane.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then there's so much gray area when it comes to abortions based on how people look at women. So, like the gray areas or the non-gray areas we see is like just looking at women as women and seeing that we're the ones carrying the babies or the fetuses. Our bodies are the ones changing and our health changes. There are so many health changes that people don't talk about that women go through. Like some women develop diabetes, heart conditions, like you develop allergies and intolerances to things you enjoyed. Like there's so much that comes with just gestation in general that women have to go through. And to force women to continue that is a hard, like, gray area, a hard topic to go through. And then the other gray areas that we don't really talk about are rape, unwanted pregnancies, possible death of the mom or the baby, and just like the father's rights if the father is like active with the mother in the relationship and creating the baby. But even with all those gray areas, the reality of the My Body, My Choice is that it's not an easy choice, but either way, women suffer the consequences. And it can be consequences of having the baby, losing the baby, grief,
Yeah.
health consequences, or just judgment from society. There's no, the way society works, it's just there's no women positive way to deal with this.
Yeah. It's like even if you have the baby, you will get judged. If you don't have the baby, you will get judged. Like it's always judgment.
Mhm.
Ridiculous. Because it always should just be like a choice. Like I don't know. I just feel like just like you were saying, like things happen, like rape and just I don't know, things happening in that female life that probably shouldn't been happening, and she decided to not have the baby, and that should be her decision. Nobody
Yeah.
should just throw like all of their opinions on her because it should your opinion shouldn't really matter. Especially like I feel like a lot of times like people have their opinions, but like if that female was to really have a child, like are y'all really going to sit there and like provide them the necessary things that they need? A financial thing be like a big worry when females get pregnant, like, oh, how am I gonna be able to take care of this? How am I be able to do this, that? And
Absolutely.
it's just like if I go get an opinion from somebody and they just be like, oh, you gotta do this, you gotta keep it, you gotta do this or whatever. Like I don't have to do anything. I have to do what I feel like I have to do is best for me and not what's best for you. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
yeah,
There's so many people that just push their thoughts onto the women without asking, like, are you okay? What do you need?
yeah, like how are
It's
you?
very much like, oh, this is your job now, this is your obligation, without any peace offering of any kind. Like, okay, here's your solace, here's what's going to protect you and take care of you and the fetus, here's what I'm going to do in your situation.
Yeah.
And then we go back to like the unwanted part, unwanted, unable to take care of the child. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how how is that fair to any woman to just sit there and go through with it? How is that fair to the child
It's not fair at
to
all.
grow up knowing that they weren't wanted and they were forced on the family
And then
or on the mother?
and I know a lot of people gonna go and say like, well, if she knows she didn't want kids, she would have took the necessary precautions not to have them, like birth control or condoms, making sure that their partner wear condoms, not even themselves.
At this point, I feel like we as a society just know that birth control isn't 100% effective, because I went and held hands with my friend, held her hand while she got an IUD put in after having her first daughter. IUDs are supposed to last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think 2 years down the line, the IUD just fell out and she had no idea.
Dang.
And it's not like the doctor can like tell her, hey, like if she had no idea that it fell out, there was no way of her going to the doctor and saying, hey, I think something's wrong, until she found out she was pregnant
Yeah,
again. And she's like, I don't know how this happened. And they're like, oh, whoops.
that's crazy. Yeah, birth control is
And
just
that's the highly protective, like, they have like the different rates of like the pill is all right if it's taken regularly consistently, but like the IUD is like it's in, it's done, 5 years.
yeah. I had got the IUD just because
Hmm.
you ain't really had to go again. Um, It's 5 years
Yeah,
ago. I was just like, yeah, I'd be ready in 5 years to have kids. So, I went in here and, did the thing. But like Serena was saying, like, it's not always effective. And birth control affects women differently. Like with the I know you said your friend hers fell out, but with mine I had to take mine out because it was causing pain in my stomach area. So it's just like not like these birth controls aren't really safe because it just causes other problems.
absolutely. Not to mention the trial and error that comes with picking your birth control. There's like the pill, the most basic birth control, where you have to figure out like this pill may cause depression and this pill may cause weight gain. It's just so many different things that women have to deal with
Yeah.
just to try and avoid pregnancy. At what risk?
And our bodies are risking. That's what we doing. We just risking our bodies. And for what?
The line, I say all that to say that the line that we draw at where our body ends is very gray, and trying to define that in a way that protects all women has to be done in just that way. We can't decide, hey, women based on men, women based on the fetus. We have to figure out a baseline for women
Yeah.
if we're going to come together as a society, before judging women, of course.
I agree. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, having support from like family and friends can help women a lot through like this process of either like if they're having abortions or if they're having a miscarriage. having that supportive friends and family around you to help you go through it, and not being judgmental and not making you feel like you are a bad person for doing for this that to happen, I guess,
Absolutely.
or like a bad person to make a decision like having abortion. So you having those supportive friends around you or supportive family members around you can be very like helpful to the female.
Absolutely. Having someone you can go and talk to and get advice from, someone that sees you for who you are
Yeah.
instead of seeing you as the situation. And this goes for miscarriages too. Miscarriages are obviously unplanned, and you need that support just as much as anybody else,
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure you're doing okay and make sure you're processing through things.
Yeah, having those pregnancy scares and miscarriages are very like those things affect women a woman affect women differently, and like having support, having people you can just talk to that aren't going to be like judgmental, um
Ab-
or just
Absolutely.
just supportive, like people who are going to like put you in a positive place and not just be negative all the time, because you're already going through a miscarriage, you're already going through a loss. You don't want to like be going through more. Like you need to be in a more like peaceful and comfortable environment.
Absolutely. And I'd also I like that you say a loss. I think it's important to note that abortions are a loss too,
Hmm.
even if it's a decision
Yeah.
to have an abortion. It's a loss that women suffer through because it's never an easy decision.
Mm-mm.
It's never just black and white, oh, boom, done. Like your body, and even those early stages, your body has started changing and your emotions have started changing. Like it's just as much a loss as losing a child, because that's not an easy decision to go through with. So
Absolutely.
that support system, that team, those people that you can trust, they're important in those times.
Absolutely. And that just brings us, to talking about, building your village. As always, you want to have that, you want to have those supportive people around you. So when you're building your village, find people who you can trust, find people who that can support you and like be positive through the whole way through. Like
Yeah.
for instance, like me, I still build my village daily. I try to. I mean, I know I don't like talk to a lot of people, but like
Mm.
the people that I feel like I have in my life now, I feel like are very supportive and very like if they weren't in my life, I don't know what I would do. That's how much of a support system I have, and I love my support system.
Aww.
Yeah, I love you, sis. Period. You the biggest part.
Oh, I love you too.
But yeah, having a support system is just, I don't know, it's just 100 times better because then you don't feel like you alone.
Yeah, definitely. That brings us into education. How do we educate ourselves?
A lot of research. You gotta
Yeah,
know. You gotta like really, really, really know about your body.
absolutely.
And I know Google. People say don't just keep using Google. So if you're afraid like of using Google and getting like the wrong um what I say the wrong like information, just go to your doctor. Just go talk to your doctor. I'd like to go talk to my doctor because Google scares me.
Because I Google things.
Yes, Serena, don't Google it. Just go talk to your doctor. And a lot of doctors say you can call them, so you can just call them and be like, "Yo, this
I
happened."
have started that. I email my doctors, or I'll send we have a my chart portal, and just be like, hey doctor, I'm noticing this. What the heck?
Yeah, my doctor told me that with my last appointment. She was like, you can just call and ask. I'm just like, oh,
It'd be like that. But I think education should also start within the home,
ooh,
because growing up for me, we didn't really have the typical sex talk. I also think like understand we have a reasonable understanding of the risk of sex, but I don't know. I feel like I was never comfortable enough to talk to my family about okay, I'm sexually active, now what? Like, what happens in this situation? Like, I never felt like my family would ever be on the same side as me in general when it came to like being in college. What happens if I got pregnant in college? Or what would happen if I was assaulted or anything, in terms of like what my options would be. Like, nobody, the only time we hear about abortions and miscarriages, it's not usually a positive conversation. Nobody really talks about miscarriages. Nobody really talks about abortions unless it's like, oh my gosh, look at these women. It's very much like a judgmental kind of conversation when it really should be like a conversation where this happens, this is how you can grow from it, this is how you can do more for yourself, so that way we can possibly like help your health, we can possibly help your mental state. Like, those are the conversations we should be having when including abortions and miscarriages and sexual education, because those are the things that really impact women.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Like, the fact that we're able to sit here and have this conversation today and say like a lot of women don't feel supported or feel like they have like their own like support.
Yeah, those conversations are needed at home to start. I didn't have those talks in the house, my household even when when I was a child. I was
Yeah,
just out here figuring things out on myself and got in trouble.
that's just not that's just not it.
Nothing about yeast infections. I didn't know nothing about.
UTI.
I don't even think I know nothing about UTIs. I didn't even think before I started my period. I didn't know nothing about my period.
Hmm.
That means that this conversation needs to be had in
Yeah,
home, especially
absolutely.
with the little girls. Like,
Especially nowadays, I feel like age that people are becoming more sexually active is getting younger and younger.
yes,
And to not know what you're actually like doing and like getting at risk. And it's important to have these conversations, especially when children start understanding,
mm-hmm,
because if they start understanding stuff and you start brushing stuff under the rug when they are able to understand, their questions have to get answered. And if they realize that you're not going to answer for them, they're going to go somewhere else and find their answers. I went somewhere else to find my answers.
I
Were
sure
my answers right from the direction I went? Nope, they sure weren't. But at the time,
I'm curious. Like, especially if nobody talking about it, you just curious. And then like also another big factor is like your peers. Like you're around your peers and your peers talking about this and that. Oh, what's that? Oh, what's that? What y'all talking about? Like, oh, y'all doing this? I don't know nothing about that. And then you like go try for yourself. Like instead of doing all that, if that conversation is made had at home, then they wouldn't be so like curious because they would already like have the information for it.
and for in a lot of cases, they'd be able to hear their peers talking, and in a likely scenario, be able to tell their peers, "That's not right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's not how this works. My mom told me this, or my dad told me this."
Yeah. Sex education is even though then we supposed to have that in school. I guess I didn't learn it much in school, but it's definitely needed in the home. And maybe if they put it back in school, it need to be everything needs to
Revamped.
be taught, not just like I feel like in health education we just learn like what did I learn? I don't even remember.
It needs to be revamped and realistic,
Yeah.
um,
Mm-hmm.
to really understand the body.
Yeah. And it needs to be like maybe middle school. It
Oh,
needs to
absolutely.
be before high school.
At the rate that like underage preteens and teens are getting pregnant and having sex, it should be taught at that age.
Mm-hmm.
And teaching them at that age doesn't encourage them, it educates them. It teaches them what to like, it teaches them about their bodies and what to expect and how to respect their bodies at that age.
Absolutely.
women's rights, everybody. Women's rights to,
And educate yourselves and your children too.
at the end of all this, I just want to help form a society that will protect my future daughters
I agree.
from having to depend on a man or otherwise to protect themselves. Anyways, thanks, Villa Fam, for tuning in again to another episode with Two Village Girls. Please subscribe to our channel if you're new. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them down below. Also, go ahead and hit that bell to get notified when new videos drop. Please follow us on all our social medias, which will be listed in the description box below. As always, we want to send you out with some positive vibes to get you through the rest of your week. This week's inspirational quote is by Francesca Cox, who says, "A mother is never defined by the number of children you can see, but by the love that she holds in her heart." Thanks,
Mhm.
Villa Fam. Bye.
Bye.